for the Facebook Live. Hey, Live Universe, hope you are doing well. I am going to, actually, what am I going to do? I am going to close out my other screens very carefully right now before I share my screen. And then what I'm going to do, because I learned this the other day, that I've got to be careful when I'm doing Zoom on this software not to share the screen when I am doing this off of Zoom. But we have a real treat today, everybody. We've got Rob Portil here. He is the organizer of TEDxSedona. So, Rob, feel free to give everybody a shout out and say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Glad to meet.
All right. Well, I am going to go into my mode where, and I've learned this yesterday, where I was sharing my screen, and I don't want to be pulling up. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do, learning and thinking on my feet. I am actually going to go back to the video. I'm going to introduce Rob and kick off the podcast. I'm going to read Rob's bio off of my spreadsheet without sharing my screen, and then I'm going to minimize it, start sharing the screen while we are already doing the interview. That's how we are going to do this. And I'm sorry for making this so meta for everybody. It's just that when you're doing about 3 or 4 things at the exact same time, you've really got to spell it out for yourself right there. So, Rob, I'm ready to go if you are.
Go for it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to go live in 3, 2. We are live with Rob Portil. Rob, are you ready to talk?
I'm very ready. Glad to be here.
Rob Portil is a recording studio owner, commodities trader, manufacturer of the world's fastest production car, internet web developer, organizer of TEDxSedona, and co-organizer of the Sedona Photography Symposium. Rob Portil, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, TEDxSedona, I've got to tell everybody, we have had some of our best interviews with some of your alumni, Rob. So we've got, just to name a few, we've got episode 83, Reversing Pollution with Fernando Uribe Robo, and we had interviewed him a few months ago. We have episode 94, Back to Nature, with Dr. Andrea Christel. And then episode 106, we had Small and Significant with Shay Condro. So those are 3 of your top alumni. I've got so much thanks to say for you for organizing the event that they all spoke at so that they could eventually be on this podcast as well. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to you taking us a little bit behind the scenes with your organizer hat on. So, Rob, welcome to the talk.
Well, thank you, and glad to be here, and thank you for you reaching out to some of our speakers. All 3 of them were amazing speakers, so it was fabulous, and so thanks.
Absolutely. So, I'm looking forward to this. I know we had talked, I think the last organizer that we spoke to back in, I believe it was episode 80, was TEDx Portland's Kathy Armias. And so she dropped a lot of value as well. I've talked to MCs on the show, and so I like to have not just speakers, not just openers, not just closers, not just MCs, but also organizers here on Be The Talk so that we can really have that 360-degree view of what's really going on, because you know, and I know, and Talk Universe knows, because we feature this on the talk, we know that there's a lot more to the job than just speaking. And if you're a speaker, it's almost a privilege to come in and walk in and have another 9 or 10 or 12 or 20 or some organizations even larger than that have these other great speakers, but there's so much going on backstage. There's so much going on with the sponsors. There's so much going on with just pulling the whole thing together. And the lucky person that does that at TEDxSedona, Rob, is you. So please, if you don't mind just sharing what the experience has been like. I know you're gearing up for another great year here in 2018. So please just take us behind the scenes at TEDxSedona for just a couple minutes here.
Well, so it started very oddly in the sense that I've always been a fan of TED. So for 30 years, I've been looking at TED Talks and had friends of mine go to the main TED. I had not been to it. But when I first moved to Sedona, I'm a big health advocate and been a health researcher for 30 years. And I'm big in the technology areas. So when we got here, I went, gee, I'd love to do a TEDx on health. And it just shows my naivete when I tell you the rest of this. But the next step was a friend of mine who was the ex-mayor was in charge of was organizing a group called the Sedona Culture Collaborative, and they were aimed at the big art community that was here. And so I was talking with him one day, this is 2 years later, and I went, gee, we should do a TEDx about art because it's really what Sedona is very much about. And so then I went, well, if I don't get off my butt and actually do this, it'll never happen. So I got a hold of TED and applied for the license and found out, well, it has to be multidisciplinary. And at first I was a little taken aback. I didn't know that. That's how naive I was. The second part was I went, that's great. That's fine. It's why I watch TED. It's got everything on it, and there's areas that I know a lot about and I follow deeply. And so we got to work and reached out to a few people that I knew could do great things in particular arenas. You've met a couple of them. Fernando was one we actually reached out to because every university in the world is working on the concept of converting CO2 to oxygen. And it's very difficult, and everybody's been trying to do it because theoretically it's possible. And Fernando's group was the first people to make a breakthrough in that arena. And so I literally reached out to him, and he spent several months going from mediocre speaker to being one of our best. He was just delightful and amazing. But from the behind the scenes perspective of it, we spent the better part of last year talking to people that either submitted or we reached out to. And it was difficult. There was one speaker we actually cut a month before the event because she was so bad. I say she, I shouldn't even say that, but she was so bad that she was like your worst image of your worst college professor. Most boring. They had a breakthrough. I reached out to them because they had a technology breakthrough. But you went through the whole talk and you got to the end, you go, where was the breakthrough? It didn't happen. And it's like, so I sent her to one of our other speakers who has coached hundreds of women. Denise Brousseau, someone you should maybe reach out to. Denise has coached hundreds of women to do 20-minute talks to venture capitalists. She has raised over $7 billion for women-run organizations. So, and I had asked her earlier, I said, if we get in trouble, can I send you a video? And she said, sure. And I sent her the video, and she went, I could work with her for 6 months, and it wouldn't be much better. But the good news, a little behind the scenes, it led to one of our most amazing talks. Because right after we did that, I talked to one of our entertainers who I know really well, a young woman, and she said, have you talked to Zoe? And I went, no, and she was a Facebook friend. I knew what she did working with refugee camps around the world. But TED doesn't like things that are just charity-based either, And so I reached out to her. In 3 days, she wrote one of the most amazing talks ever given. And it was really about how charity doesn't work, what it takes to move to solidarity, what it takes to really cause something to happen in these camps. And she, right after that, went to Rwanda with an entire team, people that could build houses, people that could raise plants, people that could show them how to manufacture things, how to turn refugee camps into villages. And, it's like, if we hadn't cut the other speaker, this never would have happened, And it was literally tears to your eyes, kind of amazing talk. So, it's been an adventure, and I mentioned to you earlier, if you'd asked me a couple days before the event if I'd do it again, I'd say no way. And immediately by that Sunday, I just said there's no chance in hell that we wouldn't do it again. There were so many. I spent 2 months fielding calls and emails from people whose lives changed that day.
Wow.
And so, is it worth doing? It is so worth doing. It just floors me every day when I think about it.
Talk Universe, I hope you were listening to what Rob was saying, because it's not an easy job to organize all this stuff and bring it together. If you've ever managed a production, an art, I'm thinking of like a Broadway production or a drama club or something like that. There's all kinds of calls that need to be made, and it's almost similar to organizing some kind of a orchestra or a choir or a drama or something like that. Sometimes, and you heard it yourself, sometimes you have to make the tough call to cut people from the team or from the lineup if they're not stepping up. And that's one of the reasons why I bring on the successful alumni of these talks to help you understand when it's time for your talk that it's going to not just be a matter of getting your talk accepted, but it's a matter of applying the habits, especially after you're accepted, so that you actually make it to the stage and actually be able to be a clutch player that people like Rob can depend on in that lineup. Because in a lineup of 5, 10, 20 different speakers, even though the talks are amazing, there's all kinds of ups and downs. There's all kinds of various levels of confidence that we all have in ourselves, as well as what we project or don't project. And so it's the job of the organizers and the other people on the team to be able to gauge these things. And Rob and I and everyone else that I bring on this podcast, we want you to be strong. We want you to be prepared, and we want you to do what Rob is doing here, which is upping the level and the caliber of play. Sometimes that happens just by encouraging people to get more coaching. Sometimes that happens through a hard, crucial conversation. Sometimes that has to happen by cutting people from the lineup. But you got to make the tough calls, and then the result, like Rob says, is life-changing, and it's magical, because you go from complete exhaustion and saying, I'm never going to do this again right before the event. And then the event happens, and then you say, there's no way I'm not going to do this ever again. So, Rob, anything that you'd like to add to that? I just try to summarize everything that you said, but I want to give you the last word on that.
Well, two things. One is that it was an amazing team effort. Leora, Fernando, that you interviewed, will tell you what an amazing shift Leora made for him. Literally working with him over the course of 3 or 4 months to go from good to amazing. And our tech side of it was amazing. And I just got lucky. I met the guy. A friend of mine had a dinner and said, I want you to meet some of my friends that you've not met, And he got up, because I hadn't gotten the license yet, and he got up in front of this 15, 20 people at this table and said, oh, by the way, Rob's going to do TEDxSedona. His voice comes from the other end of the table and says, no, but I have the license for TEDxSedona. And I went, well, I don't think so, because I'm already in conversation with them. And it turns out when you get a license, you have it for a year. If you don't use it, you don't have it the next year. And he had the license for 2 years and had never done the TEDx. And we get together. We're now close friends. He said, I love doing the filming. I built the place where we were going to have it. He had built out the sound system, built out $30,000 projector, and built everything in place. And he said, I love doing the tech. So that's me. He said, I don't like doing the organizing and managing all this stuff. So, we're a team, and we've been a team ever since. And he's an amazing guy at TEDx. And he had done 6 TEDx Burning Man. He does TEDx Burning Man. They call it TEDx Black Rock City. But the big other thing to say to people and to be clear about is, we're not looking for great speakers. We're looking for great ideas. And the bottom line is, if you have a great idea that you really need and want to share with the world, we can help you be a better speaker. It's all about, it has to start with the idea. It has to start with your passion for the idea. There's some other elements, like let's build it into your story and make it great and so that it resonates with people and really works with them. But we get submissions all the time from people that are speakers. Their whole business, their life is speaking and doing that. And I go, it's not what we're after. I mean, granted, you're a good speaker, but what's the great idea? I've had people come up to me and say, oh yeah, here's my stuff. I do a lot of talks. I talk all over the world, and been in front of the UN and blah, blah, blah. What would you like me to talk about? And I go, it's the wrong question.
Wow.
Come to me with the great idea, and we'll go from there, because that's what it's about, and that's why we're there.
Talk Universe, Rob is really encapsulating what is different about a branded talk. And whether we're talking about the big gorilla in the room, which is TED and TEDx, or if we're talking about Google Talks or Idea City or Q Ideas or some of these other similar but very smaller organizations, they are idea-centric. Branded talks are you second, the idea first. And it really allows anyone, anywhere, to potentially give that talk to change the world. But Rob, it's very interesting to me, having seen all kinds of speakers and been in the room, and there are many very accomplished people, and it amazes me that many of those accomplished people still don't know really what a TED Talk is, or they're not familiar really with the brand. It's amazing to me after about 20 years of this. Have you found that to be the case? Actually, in that story of the person that comes to you and says, hey, I can talk about anything. What do you want me to talk about? It's kind of betraying that. But it's amazing to me how many you would think.
For me, that's the end of the conversation. For me, if that's the approach, that's the end of the conversation. So, but back to that. Yes, some people don't quite understand, don't get it, but now we have a lot of tools. I give them Chris Anderson's book on TED Talks.
Excellent resource.
Video on what really works, what it takes. There's another fabulous video by a woman who has spent 3 years researching talks and has determined the what's the best way to say it? The pattern that exists in all the great talks of the world, not just TED Talk, but I mean from John F. Kennedy to Martin Luther King. What works in there? What captures people and makes them want to be with you and stay with you inside of something? So we give people access to that, and we go, this is what it's about. It's about your idea, and it's about you being really present to that conversation. People get it.
We've been enjoying this conversation with Rob Portil. He is the organizer at TEDxSedona. We've enjoyed 3 of his alumni here in previous episodes of Be The Talk, and we've got even more for you, Talk Universe. We're going to pivot over to you in just a moment when we go for the Blitz Round. And we're back with the Blitz Round. We have Rob Portil with us. He is the organizer of TEDxSedona. I am about to ask Rob a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of talks at TEDxSedona. Rob, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Well, good. So in general, you're not the speaker in this case, but just in general, how does it work at TEDxSedona? That's the perspective I'm looking for. So in general, do you select people to speak or do they apply?
This year, it's about 70% applications, and the rest are people we have purposely reached out to because we've heard of their ideas and we really want to hear about it.
Okay, so mostly application-based. That's great. That's hopeful for Talk Universe. Do you find that most other TEDx's or branded talks are the same way, application-based as opposed to selection-based?
If they've been around for a little while, I just came back from TED Fest in New York, so I've talked personally with hundreds of TEDx organizers, and I kind of have an answer for that. I mostly talked about the concept of how best to do curation. But the answer is that no, they get a lot of submissions. If they've been around for a few years, people know about them, they want to talk there. But a lot of them do what I do, which is reaching out to those areas that they really have heard something about, either technology or health in our case, and things that we want to hear about.
Great. Well, next question. Are most people, or would you recommend people to be memorizers, improvisers, or blenders in terms of their preparation?
If you'd asked me last year, it would have been a different answer.
Okay.
I thought people needed to memorize it. I also realized for myself, I am an improvisational speaker. I am infinitely better at that. If I have to memorize something, it always sounds flat. It's harder for me to be present. And I realized that was a problem for some people last year. And I've only subsequently gotten to the place where, no, I'm good. If they need some notes, we'll give them a teleprompter if necessary. I don't want them reading it, but I need them to be present to this conversation. And if that means not trying to remember all the stuff they were trying to remember, fine. If notes will help, we'll go for it, because it's what's more important is them being present to that audience and to the talk.
Rob, do you find that most people have nerves, or do they walk out and they're in the zone, or neither, or both?
Both. Some people that were nervous, when they're actually there, it kind of goes away. And last year we had no problems like that. Everybody did really well, and most people had memorized their things and were still very present to it. In one case, the day before in the walkthrough, one of the people faltered dramatically. It was like we thought we're in trouble. Halfway through, and it all went away. And I went, oh my God. But she got some coaching from somebody who was really good, who used to work for the Obamas, in fact. And she was fabulous the next day. She was dead on and perfect. So, it can happen, but mostly people are pretty comfortable by the time they're there, but they may spend months being uncomfortable because they get that this is potentially the talk of their life, so.
Well, and congratulations to you for not pulling the plug, but giving that person a chance to get the resources to recoup with that last day of preparation. I guess my question to you as an organizer is what, and this may be something that you're conscious of, it may not, but I'm wondering what goes through your head and what criteria is there if you need to pull the plug on someone, which you mentioned you had to do at one point in the preparation process, or not, like you just shared in this anecdote. Is there a criteria? Is there a gut level feeling? What's going on?
Well, best answer is that when we originally do the submission form for people, all we're asking for is a good definition of the idea and any video showing them speaking, just so we know their voice isn't terrible, they're not a joke when they're in front of somebody, and so just to feel like it's possible. So that's all we ask for initially. What we do next is ask for them to kind of write it and give us 5 minutes of it, beginning and somewhere in there. Give us 5 minutes of the talk. That gets us to the point of, gee, we've already agreed the idea sounds great. Can they express it? Can they put that in a way that is accessible to people and resonates with people? That's like step 2. Step 3 is, okay, if they're a little stumbly on how they're doing it, we'll coach them on speaking. But all goes back to, it's got to be the great idea. They've got to be able to express that in a matter of minutes, what that idea is and why that's important. And then part 3 is they need to resonate with people in a great way, but we can work on that. But the first 2 have to be in place, and if they're not, then it's over.
So we've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Rob Portil. He is the organizer of TEDxSedona. We've been enjoying this very much, and I would be remiss if I didn't let you know where you could go to find out more about Rob and the work that he does. You can go to orbitalweb.com, or you can also link in with him. I'll provide both links. And also I will include the link to TEDxSedona in the show notes as well. And in just a moment, we will be right back with Rob Portil for the final word of advice for us, Talk Universe. And we're back with Rob Portil. It is time for the final word of advice for Talk Universe.
Well, let's see, that puts me on the spot. But no, I think I've really covered it in the sense of what's important. And the only thing we're looking for are great ideas worth spreading. And it doesn't matter what the area is. It matters that it's worth spreading. It's really things that can make a difference in the world. And that was our takeaway from last year. We had so many life-changing moments for people, and all because these were great ideas. These were things worth sharing.
Rob Portil, thank you so much for carving out time to be on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
You're welcome, and thank you. This has been great.
All right, that's a wrap for the podcast. We are still on with Live Universe, so thank all of you for being on. We got some thumbs up. I want to encourage you to not be like the creepy kid from The Shining, but instead this is a share finger sharing simulation, want to take your finger, put it over the share button, and share this broadcast so that more people can hear right from the mouth of an organizer how to best apply, how to go and scope out other great events that they can speak at. If you are someone that is maybe you are a speaker and you're like, why do I get rejected from these talks? I'm such a great speaker. Well, maybe you need to lead with the ideas. You've heard it all here. So share it. And even if we're not live anymore because we're about to go offline, but if you have a question, if you have a comment, if it's about TEDxSedona, if it's about anything else that you'd like Rob to answer, feel free to pose the question right here in the comments, and I'll tag Rob on this thread, and I'm sure he'll be able to monitor that as well. Any final word to Live Universe before we go offline, Rob?
No, not at all. It's been a real delight. Like I said, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't. It is so gratifying that it's just been amazing, and I will continue to do this for quite a while. And I'm looking for great ideas in the world. So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you for sharing, and we'll see you next time.